Hello, FYEP colleagues. Instead of sending out an email regarding kind of course descriptions, which is work that you're probably doing right now to get ready for J-term and spring term, I thought I would just put together a brief video to just provide some guidance or support around course descriptions so that students can make more informed, more strategic decisions about the courses, the FYEP courses that they choose to take in spring. So I'm going to walk you through just a little bit of a presentation with some kind of tips and stuff like that um, regarding the work that we can do to just kind of clean up our course descriptions a little bit and again to make them a little bit more user friendly. So I hope that you are seeing my screen now and that it is recording it's recording the short presentation I put together for this. So I kind of want to start with just revisiting or visiting this idea of why course descriptions are important and why producing and writing really kind of clear and clean course descriptions is important for our students. So I've had some conversation with first-year PLU students, especially last year with the one who were in the 102 course. I've also had conversations with PLU academic advisors who are helping students register for courses. And to be quite honest, you know, my daughter is a second year here, so I'm also drawing from her experience with reading through course descriptions to try to decide what courses she wants to take, in particular the FYEP courses. That process can be challenging for students to read our course descriptions and to try to decipher like what the course will be about and what they can expect from the course. So when students don't quite understand what it is that we write on the course descriptions, those course descriptions could serve as a barrier for them for making really wise and thoughtful decisions about the courses that they take. And to be quite honest, for us as instructors, making really good decisions and around our course descriptions and producing course descriptions that are clean and clear and easy to understand also means that we stand a better chance of getting students in our courses who actually want to be there, who are interested in the topic. So it also benefits us. So what I'm going to cover in this video is I'm going to kind of use my FYEP 102 course description as kind of fodder for the conversation. I'm going to deconstruct it a little bit. I kind of came to this course description a little bit by accident, just by putting together something that I thought would maybe interest students. And then after that, I'll provide some tips and a possible structure for FYEP course descriptions. So if you're in the process of revisiting yours and thinking about doing revisions, I will be providing a possible structure by which you could go about doing some of those revisions and doing some of that revisiting work. I'm also going to share just a quick strategy for how you could use ChatGPT to help you in this work. I got this idea from Dr. Jen Smith, who suggested that this might be a way that instructors could productively use ChatGPT. So I'm going to show you one way of doing that. And then just kind of a what to expect moving forward, just in terms of perhaps like what you can expect to hear from me around when course descriptions are due and stuff like that. So hopefully this video won't take very long, but we'll see. All right, so I first want to start with with some questions you can ask yourself about your FYEP course description as you are starting to pivot towards some of that work. And as students to get ready for student registration, which will start happening after our midterm break, so around mid-October. So, and these are some questions that I ask myself whenever I kind of revisit my course description, especially for my FYEP courses. So the first one is, does it provide students with a clear purpose of the course? So do they understand the why behind the course when they're reading it? Does it provide students with a rationale or a warrant for the course or why they should take the course? So this is kind of connected to the purpose, but the warrant and the rationale also just identifies some small gap or tries to leverage something that's already kind of happening in students' lives and tries to build upon that knowledge. So the third question is, does it provide students with a description of the skills and knowledge they will gain from the course? So will they get an indication of what it is that on a very basic level they will learn from taking our course? And then does it provide students with an idea of how their learning will be assessed? So are we really clear about that? Like maybe not in super specific terms, but generally speaking, what can they expect from whatever our summative or major assessment might be from the course? And then this one is kind of something that I always try to go back to because I think this is important for all of our students to hear, but in particular our first year students. And that is, does the course description communicate to students a connection between what they'll learn in the course and how they could use those skills and knowledge in their daily lives? So in what ways will our course help them make a difference in the world in either locally or kind of on a grander scale? I think students really appreciate kind of seeing that kind of thing. So I'm going to show you an example using my FYEP 102 course description as an example. And this is going to be kind of a couple of different steps. So first, I'm just going to share it with you. I'm going to kind of read it through, and then we'll return to the PowerPoint presentation as I kind of break it down a little bit. So I'll try to kind of do what we call read aloud and kind of read it through and just kind of talk about my rationale for what I did, why I did what I did. So let's see if I could pull it up. That is not it. My apologies. I paused just a little bit there to kind of sort out all the different windows that are open uh, on my desktop. Oh, that is the wrong one. Apologies again. Let's see. Okay, this is the right one. Oh, hmm. Still not again. Okay, I'm just going to pause it just for a second. Okay, so hopefully you can, Zoom is telling me that you can see the document. It should look something like, okay, so there you go. It's my course title was Organizing for the Beloved Community. So my goal for my course description was to put together something that kind of leveraged student expertise a little bit based on what I know that students were doing kind of out in the world previous to coming to PLU. So I wanted to design a course that was around community organizing. And just as an aside, I've come to really like the idea of using my 102 courses as a way to kind of try out new things and to try to put something really super interesting in front of students. So anyway, the course description for this course says, the purpose of this course is to provide students with the knowledge and skills to be socially just community organizers using Dr. Martin Luther King's concept of the beloved community as an anchoring principle. From creating affinity group clubs in schools to organizing walkouts and demonstrations, in the last 5 to 7 years, youth have been exercising their agency and voice to try and bring about more just and caring communities. This course hopes to draw from that enthusiasm and provide students with effective and proven skills of community organizing to help them make lasting and systemic change in their communities. This course will ask students to engage in various proven community organizing frameworks and readings from such leaders as Saul Alinsky and prominent BIPOC leaders and community organizers who have organized for sustainable change. Additionally, the course will feature multiple guest speakers and lecturers who are currently doing the work of community organizing in various fields and disciplines to provide coaching and mentorship to students in the course. Students will be required to produce an original project plan for a community organizing effort they identify in their local communities. So some things I kind of want to call out a little bit. I mean, if I were to be teaching a 102 course again this spring or this same 102 course this spring, there would be some changes I would be making. Like I'm going to drop the Saul Alinsky text from the course to try to find a different course, right? And I would probably do some wordsmithing around some things, making some things maybe a little bit more clear, maybe clean up a little bit of the language, maybe not make it as wordy. But in general terms, I just want to, my goal for the course description is to be super clear with students about what they can expect from the course in a way that isn't filled with jargon, in a way that doesn't provide theoretical frameworks and stuff like that. I suggest that I'm going to be using different frameworks, but I don't really go into depth about what those are. So it's just kind of a 20,000 foot idea of what they can expect from the course, and how I'm using knowledge of what their experience might be to kind of help design the course overall. Let's now return to the PowerPoint. So I can kind of walk through a little bit in a little bit more detail about how I go about kind of doing that work. So let's see. Start there. Okay. So when I went back through my course description, I tried to identify just a general structure. And this says, I think, like a structure that I ironically got first from a professor mentor of mine when I was going through my doctorate coursework, to kind of help me wrap my head around what a good abstract does when you submit a journal publication. So I kind of drew from a little bit of that thinking in order to inform my course description. So that may be helpful for you to think about. But so the underlying description is essentially I try to provide a purpose for the course right off the bat so students know what my hope for just overarching kind of purpose is for the course. And then I try to provide a rationale or warrant for their course, right? So like, why would I even come up with this kind of thing? And I try to make that rationale or warrant something that doesn't quite live super solidly within like the confines of a discipline. That might be sometimes harder to do, depending on what kind of course that you're teaching. But I think kind of suggesting that there's beyond just you have to know it in order to get the major, or you have to know it in order to be able to do something really specific in the discipline. Like beyond that kind of level of thinking, I think is helpful for students. Um, and then communicating the skills and knowledge students will gain and learn from taking the course. So being kind of specific about that in some ways, but then not going super into the weeds around that. And then generally speaking, I try to tell students how their learning will be assessed. So what can they expect from that summative? Also, if my goal is to kind of lean into relevance and engagement and to draw parallels between the course and what they might experience in the world outside of PLU, that assessment should also signal to them ways in which they could use their skills and knowledge in the outside world or in the world outside PLU. And then throughout the course of the course description, I'm always trying to communicate to them that I understand that what they learn, they should be able to use when they leave the PLU classroom. So I try to weave that throughout the course description here and there. So I probably do a better job of that in some ways than not in other ways. So it's something I'm always working on, but I try to do that as well. All right, so let's start with the purpose. So this is a part of the course description that kind of communicates the purpose, and I underlined different phrases in this first sentence that I use that are kind of signaling to students, just underlying frameworks, underlying approaches, underlying philosophies, and also try to be really straightforward with students. So the first sentence of my course description, right, calls out the purpose of the course from the very beginning, and then talks about my desire to help them become socially just community organizers, and that I will be using this framing of Dr. King's beloved community as an anchoring principle. So this generally provides students with the what and the how of the course, right? So just in the first sentence, they get a pretty good indication of like, what the course will be about and how I hope to go about doing that in super general terms. And then my rationale or warrant is like, why did I create this course? Why should they take this course? What's my rationale for why this course might be important for them? And I've underlined like these specific phrases within the next two sentences after the purpose to kind of communicate to them. So I call out to them that I know that the youth have been trying to organize or trying to exercise their agency and voice due to like racial justice demonstrations that were happening around the George Floyd murder, and just other things that I know that students are doing in K-12 schools, walkouts, demonstrations, stuff like that. So I try to draw some of their expertise into the course description to communicate to them that I know that many of them have been thinking about these things or participating in these things and stuff. And so parts of the course will be familiar to them. And then I try to communicate to them that I will be building on that expertise by providing them with effective and proven skills to try to do that work themselves in order to make change in any way they think is necessary in their local communities. Right. So this generally just the big takeaway from this is that it generally links what students have already been doing to additional learning they will get from the course. Right. So skills and knowledge students will learn. This is a little bit more straightforward. This might be an area that we might be a little bit more comfortable with. Keep in mind, I try to really cut down on the jargon here and save that for when students actually get into the course. So I try to provide them with a more general explanation of what that might be. So I let them know that they're going to be engaging in various proven or community organizing frameworks and readings. I even reference Saul Alinsky's work as one of those texts and just let them know where those texts will be coming from, other texts like BIPOC leaders and community organizers. I also kind of give them a little bit of an insight that should expect that folks from the community will be coming into my classroom in order to provide expertise, which might be something a little bit new or different that differentiates my course from maybe other courses that they may be thinking about taking. So I just tell them that, guest speakers will be coming in who are actually doing the work of community organizing. And what I think that does for me and for them is it provides students with an idea of what the content will look like and how they will engage with it. Right. And so, again, I give them a way to kind of start to imagine what the course might look like for them while they're making the decision about whether or not my course is a good fit for them. And so how will they be assessed? It's just super straightforward. I let them know that they're going to be doing a project plan, just like community organizers do out in the field, or just as folks who are socially active do out there in the world. I'm going to give them a template and stuff like that. Now, they don't need to know about the template, and they don't need to know about all the other materials we're going to be giving them, just that they're going to be doing the thing. It generally provides students, this can provide students with an idea of what the summative end of course assessment will look like. And I think they really appreciate that too, knowing that they'll be having to do some writing, but maybe it won't be just more of a traditional paper is important for them to know. If you're going to be asking them in your course to do things like maybe a podcast, maybe an oral history, maybe a video, maybe a presentation, this might be a good time to kind of include general terms around some of those things to help attract students into your course. So that's kind of one way that you can go about like rethinking, revisiting your course description. But again, let's kind of take a look at another way that this can happen just through the use of AI tools. And I'm going to be showing you a little bit of how you can do this using ChatGPT. So hopefully the technology will kind of work out for me. Uh, so there won't be any interruptions to the presentation. So I'm just going to pause it for a second and get that worked out, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, everybody. So what I thought I would do is also provide you with just a tip about how you could use ChatGPT in order to maybe speed up some of this work and give you just a better sense of how this might work. So what I have done, let's see if I can actually move to it. All right. So what I have done is I have just kind of I've gone and just grabbed a couple of research articles from some journals that I tend to read from time to time as just some examples of maybe some writing and some abstract work that if students were to read it, it would feel a little bit challenging for them, or it might just be a struggle for them to actually understand what the thing is that's trying to be communicated to them. So what you're going to see me do is I'm going to actually take some of the language from these abstracts, and I'm going to work within ChatGPT to ask ChatGPT to do some work for me. So one of them talks about one of the articles talks about opportunity gaps. The other article talks about is in the indigenous pedagogy space and talks about just how researchers and educators can do better work when they're working in those communities. So let's head over to ChatGPT um, and get to work on some of that. So where are we? Okay, here we go. So if you haven't used ChatGPT before, it's pretty super easy. You just go to a browser. I tend to use DuckDuckGo, but you can go to any browser, and ChatGPT is just right there on it. So I just go to ChatGPT, and you can see the searching is really super easy. And then I just hit the Start Now button. And this is where you can ask ChatGPT to do just about anything for you. So what I do is I'm going to prompt it by asking it to rewrite this abstract into more student, um, let's use student friendly language. So now I'm going to go and grab the abstract, the first one. Well, let's do the second one. Second one might be kind of better. So I'm going to copy that from a Word document. I'm going to paste it here. And you could just go ahead and do that with your course description as well. And note that I'm putting the abstract into quotation marks, so ChatGPT knows the difference between my prompt and the text that I'm asking it to look at. So then I just hit the white button, and then it spits this out for me. So let's just kind of take a look at the original abstract, so you can kind of get a sense of just how technical that abstract is, and then what ChatGPT did with it. So the abstract itself says the socio-ecological challenges facing communities in the 21st century are building towards a critical conjuncture of history, culture, power, and profound inequity. Scholars working in the service of social transformation and improving the well-being of communities are calling for creative, deliberative, and consequential interventions. Tharp and O'Donnell, this issue, call for increased engagement between cultural community psychology and cultural historical activity theory to lead this kind of call. Drawing from our experiences in community-based design research, we argue for cultivating axiological innovations and research and interventions. We explore these three examples, including critical historicity, intergenerational learning, and strategic transformations of institutional relations. Now, let's just imagine that students were coming across a course description that kind of read like this. Like, it's well written, and it communicates to folks who are engaging in the journal, for the most part, what the article is going to be about. But if you imagine yourself as an 18 or 19-year-old who isn't necessarily apprenticed into the world of this level of academic writing, or isn't necessarily apprenticed into this level of understanding within a very specific discipline or field, you could see how a student might struggle to kind of understand what the article is going to be about, right? So maybe your course description has some small elements of it here and there. So one easy thing you can do to try to figure out ways that you can kind of make your abstract or your course description more student friendly is just to plug it into ChatGPT. So this is what ChatGPT gave me based on what I fed into it was the abstract. So ChatGPT says, communities today face serious social and environmental challenges that highlight issues of history, culture, power, and inequity. Researchers dedicated to making positive changes in society are urging for creative and meaningful actions. Tharp and O'Donnell in this issue suggest that we need more collaboration between cultural community psychology and cultural historical activity theory to drive this change. Based on our experiences in community-based design research, we argue for new approaches in how we conduct research and create interventions. We discuss three key ideas: understanding historical context, learning across generations, and changing relationships with institutions. Now, this is probably better. I think this is probably easier for most folks, students, adults alike, to kind of understand what the article might be about. But I would also urge you that to take, if you're going to go about this route and you're going to take language that ChatGPT produce, to then even revise it even further. And what I would probably do is I would try to think of maybe a different way of talking about cultural community psychology or cultural historical activity theory, and just to try to cut down on more of the jargon um, of the course description, because to be quite honest, students really don't need to know that much about that theory right now in the course description. They just kind of need to know the general approach at which the work is going to be done. So I would probably take this from ChatGPT. I would do some more fine tuning. I would do some more revisions. Again, to cut back on the jargon, and also just kind of make some concepts a little bit more clear from here and there, um, so that it's easier for them to digest and so they can make, again, good decisions. Right. So let me stop sharing that. And let's go back to the PowerPoint and just kind of finish up our discussion for today. Let's see. Okay. Again, hopefully it's sharing the way I hope it is sharing, which is that you're seeing the PowerPoint and not necessarily a whole lot of me. All right. So what are some takeaways you should consider when you're looking to kind of do some revisions on your course description and kind of revisiting it as you get ready to resubmit it for this year's first year students as they're thinking about making choices around their FYEP 102 course? All right. So the first thing to be thinking about is that, again, students make better decisions about the courses they take when they have a better understanding of what those choices are. And this is kind of a straightforward thing, but course descriptions have a big role in this decision-making process. Remember, they probably won't come to you and ask you for more information about your course. They will be making decisions just based off your course description. So let's try to make their decisions a lot more informed by making our course descriptions easier to read and easier to digest. So in that light, course description should provide students with jargon-free, straightforward, and declarative descriptions of information they need to make those decisions. So again, really try to, as you're revisiting your course descriptions, try to make them cleaner, try to make them a little bit more clear. I mean, one thing that I did when I wrote up my course description is I gave it to both my daughter, who at the time was doing a gap year, and my wife, who's an educator but isn't in higher ed, just to make sure it was clear, just to make sure that they understood what this course was going to be about. So I got feedback from folks who weren't necessarily in higher ed, and I found that to be really useful because they even pointed out some things like, Dad, I don't understand this, or Paul, this doesn't make sense, kind of thing. So I found that to be a little bit useful. And then, like our teaching in general, our course descriptions can always stand to improve, like every other facet of the work that we do. And so hopefully this video just represents one way that work might happen. Uh, Assuming that we can always we could always be better in kind of maybe some bigger ways and some small ways to improve the way we go about doing our work for students. So if after this video you have any questions or comments or need some support, maybe some specific support around your course descriptions, please just reach out. Otherwise, I hope you have a good October and a great continuation of your term.